So in this last video, we are going to look at equations of lines and determine whether they're parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So again, the important thing to remember here is our slope-intercept form. So that means my slope is always going to be that number in front of x. So looking at that first example, I see that my slope of my line A is 2. Slope of line B is also 2. So I have the same slope, and so that means that these two lines are parallel. Okay, and then for number 2, I see my slope of the first one is 2/3. The slope of the next one is -3/2. So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, this is probably perpendicular. But let's check. So let's take my 2/3. First step is I'm going to flip it. So that's going to be 3/2. And then I want to take the opposite sign. So the opposite sign of positive is negative, which matches up with line B. So that means yes, these are perpendicular. Okay, go ahead and pause the video. I want you to try number 3 and number 4. So the answers you should have gotten here were neither and then perpendicular. Number 3 was a little bit tricky. It was so close to being perpendicular. I see for 5, when I am taking the reciprocal of that, 5 is really just 5/1. So when I flip that, I do get the 1/5. However, I can't forget that second part. The second part says they need to have the opposite sign. Since this 5 is positive, the sign of the perpendicular slope needs to be negative. But here I had a positive 1/5, so that's why this one is neither. For number 4, I see I have y equals -5 and x is equal to 8. Well, if you recall from my second video, y equals some number, that's going to be a hoi, and so the h means it's horizontal. X equals 8, that's going to be a vux, because it's x equals some number, and so that means it's a vertical line. So I have a horizontal line and a vertical line. And while we learned, those are always perpendicular. Okay, this next one's a little bit tricky. I see the number in front, there's not really a number. I see it's just kind of blank. Whenever that happens, you can kind of think of an imaginary 1 being there. So this is really 1 times x and -1 times x. So now I need to determine whether those are perpendicular. I know it's not parallel because they're not the same, because one's positive and one's negative. Well, if I take 1, if I make that a fraction, I just put a 1 underneath. And then when I flip that, I still just have 1/1. And then if I take the opposite sign, this positive becomes a -1. Well, -1 divided by 1 is just -1. And so those two match. And so that means that this one is perpendicular, because my slopes are opposite reciprocals of each other. Okay, now for number 6 and 7, I notice these aren't already in slope-intercept form. So my first step for this one is I have to make both equations slope-intercept form. I see for line B, I already have it, and I know my slope is 2. But now I need to put line A into slope-intercept form. So for slope-intercept form, I need to get y by itself. So I need to move this 2x to the other side. So that means to move this, I need to subtract 2x from both sides. So I have y equals, and then I can't combine these because 5 doesn't have an x with it, so I just leave this as -2x plus 5. And now they're both in slope-intercept form. So I see that my slope for line A is -2. So now I need to determine whether they're parallel, perpendicular, or neither. Well, I see they are both the same number, but one of them is positive and the other is negative, so I know it's not parallel. For this to be perpendicular, I would need to flip it, which means it would need to be a 1/2 negative, and which is not. So this one is neither. Okay, now for this last one, we're going to have to rearrange both of these. So starting with line A, I have 3x plus 2y is equal to 2. So first I need to move my 3x to the other side, so I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. So I have 2y is equal to negative 3x plus 2. And then now I need to get rid of this 2 in front of y. And so when I get rid of it, I need to divide it. But I need to make sure I divide every single term by 2. And so I get y is equal to, this just becomes a negative 3/2 x since I can't divide those, plus 2 divided by 2, and I get 1. So my slope for this first one is negative 3/2. We're going to do the same thing with the next one. So I have 6x plus 4y is equal to 8. I'm going to start with subtracting 6x from both sides, so I want to get y by itself. Again, because I need this in slope-intercept form to be able to tell what my slope is. And then now I'm going to divide every single term by 4. Okay, now here I have negative 6 over 4. So let's go ahead and make a little note over here. I don't want to leave like that because I know that can be reduced. And so I know that 2 goes into both the top and the bottom. So negative 6 divided by 2, I get negative 3. 4 divided by 2, I get 2. So I'm going to write that as negative 3/2 x. Then 8 divided by 4, I get 2. So I see my slope for the first one is negative 3/2. My slope for the second one is also negative 3/2. So that means that this one is parallel, since they have the same slopes. Okay, that's it for this video. If you need some extra examples, those are linked below, or you can look at the extra practice. Otherwise, you can go ahead and get started on the homework. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.